show tonight. You're going to meet him. He's going to tell you about what he's doing to fight back against these scuzzy people. I want to start here, though. It was 2 weeks ago today that the LAPD was called out to a towing yard because of a stench that was coming from the trunk of an impounded Tesla. I know you know what they found. The badly decomposed body of a 14-year-old girl who likely spent her 15th birthday the day before rotting in that trunk. The Tesla belonged to an up-and-coming R&B singer, a young guy who was away on a world tour at the time that that body was found in his vehicle, but he's not away anymore. David, as he's known, has gone off the grid, radio silent, as disturbing connections to that teenage girl just keep piling up. And now LA police have confirmed to our show that they are actively looking for more connections, AKA evidence. A statement they sent to us begins by confirming the search that we told you about last week. Quote, on September 17th, 2025, detectives from Robbery Homicide Division served a search warrant on the 1300 block of Doheny Place in connection with the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. That is it. I mean, they're actually confirming it now, right? It goes on to say this. Several items of evidence were recovered and will be analyzed by detectives in the coming days. This is an ongoing investigation. Investigators are following up on several leads, end quote. Well, that's pretty, I don't know, stark, but it says what it needs to say and it doesn't go any further. For several months, neighbors say the aforementioned Tesla, where Celeste's remains were hidden in the frunk, had been parked out in front of a home where David was living, a home that was raided, the same home that was raided by the police. TMZ reports that the home had been rented by David's manager and that David had indeed been living there before he went on tour. TMZ also reports that detectives spent 12 hours looking for blood stains or blood evidence in that home, very tight-lipped about whether they found it. And on the very day of that search, the rest of David's U.S. tour was canceled. And a few days after that, the global tour went away as well. Celeste Rivas Hernandez had been missing since April of 2024 when she was just 13 years old. 13! In April of that year, David had just turned 19. He's now 20. And in a moment, I am going to get to why age matters so much in this mystery. But first, a vigil was held yesterday for Celeste in her hometown of Lake Elsinore, about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Her brother Matthew says on the day she disappeared, she was on her way to see a movie with her boyfriend, whose name was, you guessed it, say it with me, David. Before I go on, you should know this. There is no definitive proof at this point that the David Celeste was dating is the singer of the same name, nor is there concrete proof that a girl named Celeste that the singer appears to know is in fact the dead teenager named Celeste. But as I said days ago, police really hate coincidences. And tonight we know these coincidences were on full view as far back as October of 2022 when Celeste Rivas Hernandez was just 12. Let me repeat, 12 years old. At that time, David, the singer, was 17 and taking part in a group chat with his fans on Discord. And in the chat, he wrote, "Celeste in here?" To which someone named Celeste replied, "Hi, David, bark." The two seemed familiar with each other, which means if this really was Celeste Rivas Hernandez in the chat, whose birthday was September 7th, they may have actually connected when she was only 11. Fast forward, December 2023, a demo of a love song by David leaks out online, and the name of the demo song is Celeste. Days later, on January 11th, 2024, David appears on a live stream with a girl who looks an awful lot like Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The girl tells him, "We need to delete this." David tells the moderators, quote, "Mods, can we delete all vids? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too?" The following month, February 2024, Celeste Rivas Hernandez goes missing for the first time before returning home. February 26, 2024, David posts something on TikTok and another user comments, and I quote, "Waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl." A month later, March 28th, 2024, David's fans discuss rumors that he's dating someone, and one of the fans writes, "Yeah, her name is Celeste." April 5th, 2024, Celeste Rivas Hernandez is reported missing. Her brother says she was going to the movies that day with someone named David. Almost 3 months later, June 27th, 2024, David reposts a TikTok video of someone chopping up meat. The caption reads, quote, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Skip ahead to February 2025. The music video for David's song, "One More Dance," is released, and it features a body being dragged and put into the trunk of a car. David plays both the killer and the victim in the video. 1 month later, March 2025, David releases his Withered album. 5 months later, August 5th, 2025, David starts his world tour. And 1 month later, on September 3rd, 2025, neighbors in the Hollywood Hills, near to where David had been staying, noticed the singer's Tesla abandoned on the side of the road. 3 days later, September 6th, the car is towed to an impound lot. The very next day, September 7th, is Celeste's 15th birthday. But one day after that, September 8th, workers at the impound lot call police because of a terrible stench coming from the Tesla that had just been towed there. Police open the trunk and discover the badly decomposed remains of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She's wrapped in plastic. This Celeste has the same tattoo on her right index finger as the singer David does. It reads, "Shh." Now, much of what we have known about this case for 2 weeks, and many of the facts in that timeline, they were first reported by TMZ, who have been digging on this case every single day. And earlier, I caught up with TMZ's executive producer, Charles Latibeaudiere. Here's our conversation about the case. I'm always curious when it comes to a vigil for someone who is a victim of a violent end. And for all we know, I don't know how Celeste died, but she was certainly treated horrendously in death. I always wonder if the killers show up at the vigils. Did you see or do you know of any evidence of police who were at that vigil, or maybe even undercover officers just watching to see who showed up?
There were police officers there, but as far as a presence that made you think they were watching, there wasn't anything obvious that I saw in the video. But they could have been there, and we know that that is an MO, that's not just something you see in movies and stuff. Like, it really does happen. So
Scott Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, the police detectives, I'm sure, I would think, are aware of that, and that maybe they did have people there. I mean, that's a really good point, Ashleigh, and maybe they did. But again, there's been not only no arrest, there's no named person of interest, and no named suspect, which doesn't mean the police don't have a suspect.
Right.
Just means they're
Close
not
to the vest.
Yeah, they're just not willing to share it with us yet.
I'm looking at other things, and so are people online, and I know TMZ is as well. His posts are really starting to stand out. Like, he reposted someone who was cutting up meat and said, quote, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Now, he didn't write that, but he reposted it from someone else, and it clearly shows he would either cut up the person the girl was talking to, or he'd cut up the girl. That was sent before, obviously, Celeste was found murdered. But then there's another one of him washing his sneakers that she'd been photographed in. These are all, again, by themselves, not much. Together, they're forming a picture.
Yeah, you know, we're talking today about the lyrics, and you know, we've talked about romantic homicide, and those images that you're just talking about, all sort of paint an image of an artist, right? Like, clearly, the best case scenario, you could look at that and say, this is just an image, a very macabre image he wanted to have out there for himself as an artist. But in light of what has happened now, it's impossible to not look at those things through a different lens. Now, that's maybe unfair to him as far as legally speaking, because again, he's not a suspect. But when his car, at the very least, we can say his car is connected to this crime. And now you start looking at all these things. It's hard not to look at it and go, what's going on there?
You know, uncomfortable. I mean, not only that,
uncomfortable.
Charles, you know, he is apparently, you know, he'd been selling these blood-spattered T-shirts.
Blood-splattered shirts, yeah.
Yeah, a casket on the stage, part of the act. Then there's music video with a body being put into a trunk. Again, none of it would stand up in a court of law, but looking at all of these things together, it does give you a picture of somebody whose mind works a little differently.
It definitely works a little differently, but you know, on the other hand, you would say, I'm sure his attorney would say to you, that's his art, right? And you can't prosecute someone or arrest someone based on their art.
It's true. He hasn't been accused of anything. He hasn't been named as a person of interest in this particular case. It just happens to be that it's his car where the body was found, and it's his home that they raided, and that tells us a lot. Like, even when Diddy was in limbo, we talked about the fact that they'd raided 2 of Diddy's homes. I think an arrest might be imminent, and what do you know? I do want to ask you, though, about the sales of his records and the streams. None of this has affected him in a bad way.
No, I mean, as far as his music career goes, it sounds really weird and macabre to say, but it's helped. It has helped put David on the radar screen of listeners around the country. His album just re-entered the Billboard 200, which is the album charts, and that would not have happened without all of this attention and people, you know, listening to, like, oh, who is David? You know, and actually we do a lot of talkbacks with our affiliates around the country here. And I've had the question asked several times with people going like, I didn't know about this, didn't know about his music, and I've been listening to it now. And that's exactly what's happening. His streams, his song Romantic Homicide had its biggest week ever streaming on Spotify last week. So people are listening, they're checking out his music.
To that end, can I just ask you about all of the chatter online about, and I think this is important, about the age of Celeste, who I say did not make her 15th birthday. No way. You're not that decomposed one day after your birthday. So she was 14 when she was, well, either died or was killed.
Right.
And as we go back in time, we have the possibility of them having chatted or met online at age 12. Why is there not more attention being paid to that? Or maybe legally speaking, is there?
Legally speaking, that may, depending on what they're finding, it could end up being, you know, something that is one of the charges if he were to be arrested. But people are paying attention to that. And I know I think there's not as much talk in the media about it because we just don't know if he's even the suspect, right? We don't know.
Sure.
Yes, his car is connected, but that's really all we know for certain at this point. So maybe people aren't getting to that point, but you're right. Online, people are taking notice of that. You know, we saw a TikTok that David had posted last year, and one of the comments on the TikTok, and this comment was from February this year, earlier this year. So before anybody, you know, before this happened to Celeste, before anybody was connecting his car to this, before that even happened, the comment said, waiting for LAPD to come grab your ass for talking to a 13-year-old or something about
waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl.
Right. So somebody there was already putting those pieces together long before the world knew about Celeste. Clearly, people knew about David at that point, and I think his fans were aware that he was spending time, whatever their relationship was, with this young girl.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.